into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Yes, you are listening. You have not clicked on the wrong podcast. You are watching the ABTV Limitless After Show. This is episode 3, The Legend of Marcos Ramos. We wanted to get a little festive with it. I hope we didn't scare too many of you off. But I'm your host, JB Zimmerman. You can follow me on Twitter at JB_Zimmerman. Be sure to hashtag ABTV Limitless when you talk about the show on the social media. Speaking of which, joining me in the panel.
Hi guys,
Frank.
I
Did
guess I'll
get
introduce myself first. I'm Frank Maiorana. You guys can find me on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M.
You can find me at Emily Kraudel on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Not to be confused with The Legend of Zelda.
Okay, I don't know how often that gets confused, but I'm sure enough to mention on the air.
Yes, you're welcome.
Outstanding. Well, I love that music. I just want to keep it
So
like
good.
if it was a theme song for my life, that'd be
Maybe
excellent.
it's not already.
I mean, it should be. Maybe I have to go to more like taco and burrito establishments and just stay there for long periods of time until they welcome me.
It's coming back.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah, just play it really subtly throughout the episode. Speaking of the episode, though, we start off with the nurse, kind of where we left off in the episode 2. Mm-hmm. She obviously talked about how she pretty much had control over his father, Brian's father, being that she's his caretaker. She can kind of do anything. I mean, he doesn't know if she's injecting him with the life-saving drugs that he needs or something that's going to kill him in like 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that's a scary prospect for sure. How'd you guys think about that?
Well, I thought it was interesting that she comes off as very honest. It doesn't seem like she's in on the conspiracy that Edward Mora has going on with Brian. So I tend to believe her when she says, you know what, I really don't know everything that's intended for you, but she has some part of the plan, I would think. So we really don't know what to make of that character just yet, but she pops up in Brian's living room with his dad last weekend, which by the way, I wanted to do our social media shout outs.
Yes,
we had one of our
absolutely.
We had one person call me out on YouTube. I wanted to address right away. Michelle Fitzgerald said that she disagreed with me. She thought the resolution should have been that I wanted, which was he went to the middle of the room and he got 1 million emails for everyone, which I didn't ring true for me. She said that's how every other procedure on TV would have solved it. I think what sets the show apart is the kind of goofy ways that Brian comes up with to handle things, which is a fair point, Michelle. I think
Michelle.
that's a fair point, and she is right.
Yes.
That is what separates this show, and we saw it again with this episode. There's
A few times, which we can talk about.
Michelle eloquently put the subtext in my mind that I was having the last episode, which is...
okay. Well, you can call me out live. It's
I just
okay.
didn't want to get punched.
And then we had one other user, Anastasia Sherry, said that she's having difficulty supporting our protagonist. She wrote that, I just have difficulty really rooting for a guy who basically got himself voluntarily addicted to avoid inputting any sort of hard work to achieve anything in his life, and caused all this collateral damage to the people around him.
Which is very interesting because my roommate was saying she didn't want to watch it because how can I root for someone that is on drugs?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tricky
that
moral thing to talk about because it is cheating in a lot of ways. I mean,
Right.
I think it's a lot of people would want to legitimize it because it is sort of like for the greater good. You can do a lot more. You can be more productive. And it doesn't seem to be like sort of the other downsides of drug use that, you know, we push to the side, sort of like, oh, it's just for partying or having a good time or like, you know, escaping. It's really to make you a better, smarter person. So, you know, the morality is very gray,
Which
I
is
think.
funny because on Twitter, Taylor Walker at TWalk6279, which is really close to my old zip code, she said that if she was on NZT, she would use the money to help with the school budget, which I find is very ironic because I was approached last week by someone standing outside the grocery store who was trying to get...
Here we go.
This is true.
Here we go.
He was trying to get DARE back into the schools because it was DARE...
I didn't know, for the record, I did not know DARE was out of the schools.
taken
but
away because
continue.
they don't have money.
Okay.
How ironic if she on NZT would help them get the money, they could bring back DARE. But it would tell kids, don't take NZT. So sad.
Well, we want to thank you,
irony
Taylor,
there.
for submitting in your feedback. Again,
Yes,
guys, use that.
T Walker, what is
Yes,
it?
and Vern says he would do a month-long run of Jeopardy, which is pretty amazing.
Good call. I mean, that's a
Great idea.
Dude, what a good idea.
So it's similar to the casinos, though. I feel like that's a very almost like too high profile. If you were winning for like a straight month and a half,
Yeah,
like
especially going on TV.
like Zach's in the back would be like,
Yeah.
dude, we gotta do something. We gotta throw him a curve. I don't know.
Give them a wrong answer
Yeah.
on purpose. You know, write it on
Trebek.
the
Yeah.
mirror like
That's
Slumdog
the
Millionaire.
rapist.
Exactly. Yeah. It's an SNL skit.
Yeah,
I think you have to
actually,
preface
Oh,
the
sorry.
obscure references to like 90s SNL skits.
Those aren't popular
Maybe
anymore.
beforehand, before you just
Maybe
say
not
the
in
rapist on
2015.
air.
Yeah.
Yes.
For all of you listeners who don't know what that is, the
I'm so glad.
therapist and the rapist look very similar when written, and there's no space in between.
Between them. Yeah.
Moving on, back to the show.
Yes.
Yes.
We meet a new character. We meet a lot of new characters. One that sort of stuck around longer than others. Shauna, his girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend. Really interesting point. And I think that kind of comes a lot to what Anastasia said.
Yes.
With sort of the morality of, you know, it is drugs. It is like he's cheating. He even talked about that, you know, that he almost had a heart-to-heart with Rebecca about, like, you know, what should I do? Should I be, like, she wants me to be NCT Brian. She might not like regular Brian. You know, I think that struck a really close chord with me in the idea of, like, celebrity or fame or even richness. Like, if you have an obscene amount of wealth, like, that's going to attract a lot more people to you than if you didn't. Same way with fame, same way with a lot of success or measurements of success. So that's interesting to think about, you know, where he has access to that instantly, but only for a short period of time. It's sort of like he can pretend to be a billionaire or a celebrity like during the day, but at night he's normal. So it's, you know, really finding someone that likes you for you instead of who you appear to be or who's sort of on the outside.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's interesting, though, because she said that, Brian, I loved you when you were... and he was just himself before, and he wasn't on NZT. And she said there was some spark about you that left. But when you were on NZT, it brought it back. And then I really like this story because I can see it unfold through the episode. Because at the end, she's like, oh... they're still talking and loving each other, even as the NZT wore off.
I liked the message that came with the dating idea of this episode. I didn't like that they brought in an ex-girlfriend because it's the same thing as the movie. So you had Abby Cornish as the ex-girlfriend to Bradley Cooper in the movie, and now you have an ex-girlfriend coming back into the TV show. So that I like the idea of dating and the questions that it brings up about, you know, as a man, when you're dating a woman, you know, we as guys, I know as a single guy, sometimes you just want to be this amazing person and take a woman out on all these incredible dates, but when really all she wants to get to know is you. And it made me think a lot about dating, and I love the idea that they brought in this type of element to the show. I just wish it would have been with somebody new, like a new character that wasn't an ex-girlfriend.
Right. That's an interesting point. I think they could have accomplished a lot of the same things if he just met someone on the subway, or even if it was the girl playing cello and they hit it off or something.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's an element to the ex-girlfriend because she knew him whenever he wasn't on the drugs, and there's an element of history that they have. I kind of like
that's
their
true.
history.
True. Yeah. I mean, I guess fast forwarding to the end where he had to make a very difficult decision of protecting her. And because there was, that may have not felt like the stakes wouldn't have been as high if you just met someone.
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel like an hour in TV time is very long, so they could have established, a real infatuation with each other over that time.
Or carry her over to another episode.
True.
Why not make this a 3-episode arc?
Yeah.
With
they're very quick to introduce and dismiss characters in the show.
I was thinking that a lot, actually. Like you said, an hour is a long time, and it just felt so short to me for him to have this guy come in.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do a lot of different things, and that's, for better or for worse, we are never bored, but at the same time, we never really get to know people.
I feel like...
other than the main cast.
The other thing that this dating element brought to the show was we again got to see how awesome Rebecca is. When Rebecca and Brian are having the conversation and he confesses to her, look, I want to go out on this date and I want to have NZT. She wants NZT Brian. And she looks at him and she says, there's one guy. And I got chills when she said that because that was such an amazing compliment to give to somebody. And he didn't get it at first. She has to say it again and then spell it out to him like, look, you are the same character. You have the exact same qualities. Yeah, you're enhanced a little bit during the day. But, you go and the first thing you did on NZT was go help your dad. And yeah, she spells it out to him, but I loved that first line that she said. You could feel it coming after she said, they're the same guy.
Frank wants to be Brian in that
I
scene.
do because I love her. And
he's like, why am I not on that part?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, no, and that's why I think they do want to make it more purposeful of why Brian is the star of the show and not just anyone taking
it brings
NZT.
You back to why he's doing it.
Right.
Which
I mean,
is
yes,
a big deal.
he did get the miracle shot from Bradley Cooper,
Yeah.
but again, why did they choose him? Because it in the end of the day, because he got that shot, there isn't really anything special other than his humanity,
right?
And the core Brian Finch.
Yeah, It's amazing too because I think in this episode, I don't think he realizes how big of an effect it is that he's gotten that shot until now, where it's like, well, it was thrown in his face with the nurse.
Yeah, speaking of the nurse, she did drop a little bit of info. She said in about a month he would need another shot.
Right.
So it is pretty frequent. Okay. I'm not sure time-wise how long he's been at the Bureau or since the first shot. I'm guessing maybe a month. I mean, it doesn't seem that long.
He said a month ago I was a temp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Nice.
He's like, a month ago I was a temp. No.
Yeah, so it's every couple months.
Every 60 days or so he needs a new shot. I liked that we are still hanging on to the serialized element of this show with Edward Morra, because the rest of the episode is a procedural that wraps up neat and tidy at the end and the case is solved. But we still get an element at the end of the show.
Kind of freaky.
Yeah, I mean, it is a freaky, situation where you have this new character come in, Mr. Sands.
Yeah, Mr. Sands.
Comes in at the
Sands.
end, and he's part of the Morra team. I found that to be probably the most interesting part of this show outside of the dating relationship scenes, which were great, but I like that we're getting back to hopefully some Edward Morra activity and find out really what he has in store for Brian.
Yeah,
Like,
Mr. Sands, not
quite a lovely way to mate there.
I mean, he says everything with a lovely accent and a great confidence and just conviction. But he definitely is an intimidating dude. I would not want to I would definitely do whatever he told me to do. Exactly. Which, I think it made it really real for him to be like, okay, I can't even think twice about having or endangering Shauna at all, because I would trust that Mr. Sands would definitely make good on his threat.
Can I just say, I think that I have an anchovy bone stuck in my throat, and I think it's still there. So if anyone has a good way to solve this problem, could you just hashtag ABTV Limitless? Emily, here's help with your anchovy.
I feel like this is a personal problem that you should direct to your Twitter account only, and
Emily Kraudel. Just
not pollute
Kraudel.
the ABTV Limitless thread for everybody with your anchovy bone throat problems.
Hurting. Which is okay.
Totally.
I'm just gonna get over it.
Okay.
And drink this.
So let's get back into the show.
Go.
Meanwhile, back in the show.
Back in the show, we have a case that involves a CEO.
Let's talk about the case.
Yeah.
Well, first, Ray Dixon. He's supposedly a good guy. Is sniped, just straight up headshot from afar, which we don't see. I mean, budget, whatever.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but the way you said it is like a video game. You're like, headshot.
Well, that's what they said. Their words.
Dead beat.
But yeah, he's totally sniped. Anyway, so we try to figure out sort of what happened. They go through his emails, some very long threaded emails, as we discussed. Yeah. They looked more like drapes at the end.
Which is funny that he would print them. That's weird.
Well,
but I guess he just has to have the...
No. He didn't print them. They provided him his shredded files.
They provided... No, I'm saying, why would he have printed all those...
Well, when you work in an office like the FBI, you can just print stuff out without
repercussions of not having enough paper.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're stocked. I think
it's okay.
The government,
okay.
so I think they've got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about the length of the threads. Mm-hmm. Unusual, to say the least. They were like literally swimming through them at points. But that's neither here nor there. We tracked that storyline through the threads to Jeffrey Vox. Turns out to be another loose end, which we've gone through
you know why that
episodes
loose end was there?
What's that?
I'm serious. I think this is why that loose end was there. Okay, you know how he noticed the pigment in the eye coloring?
Yeah, to tie Jeffrey Vox's baby with the affair.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Continue.
I think that's the only reason. But that's a really interesting fact, and I think they're like, oh, look what people
even when they do go on tangents, they definitely tie it back into like Brian's abilities and some limitless, capable only thing,
like
which is
kind
good.
of cool. We thought of this.
True. Had they not do that, I would start getting a little upset just because it's like such a we have derailed to nothing for 15 minutes. Like that is just a complete
I'm saying
waste.
that's the only thing that makes it meaningful at all.
Right. I mean, they definitely do tie, and how he figured out that intern was the affair, by looking through the photos and seeing the little pendant thing. It definitely has elements of why it's there.
Right.
Having said that, I would love more storyline with Eddie Mora or sort of the bigger overarching things.
Well, and there's two things we're missing too. Remember in the pilot episode we saw and I mentioned this last week, Rebecca Dad NZT plotline.
Exactly.
We have got nothing new on that this week. There was also the storyline. We had none of Brian's dad this week either.
Oh yeah.
So it was just mostly on the case, and then the Eddie Mora stuff at the end of the episode. And so I think what you're saying, JB, is right. I'd like to see more serialized elements brought back into the show because they set us up for them, and there were some intriguing moments there.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, not all of the procedural stuff was boring, really.
No.
I mean, when we got into the police station, it definitely got better. That was a lot more interesting, sort of figuring out the corruption there.
I love the body
how he
guards
sort of, showed his skills by basically sizing people up like to the max.
Yeah, that
I
was
think
cool.
it's funny that he had the bodyguards working for him. That was really cool.
Yeah. Oh, in the paper
that's
shredding
comedic.
scene.
Yeah, that's kind of comedic.
Right. I mean,
you know?
they work for they're a team. At the end.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. They're a
exactly.
team.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of funny, like Three Stooges, but not. You know.
True.
And him and his bodyguard waking him up every day. Can I just say that'd be the scariest way to wake up ever?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
a scary way to
Wouldn't
wake
it?
up. Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh my
The
gosh.
big man in a suit standing over you.
I don't know why he passes out on his couch though every night. I mean, they even reference that. They're like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
That is true, yeah.
But I think I mean,
or it's just like.
well,
one
yeah. I
off
mean,
here.
I think you do get a little washed after having that whole like drug thing wear off.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's just Brian. Like, you know, they're bringing back the character of like he's just not a guy
Lazy.
that like
He's
needs
too
to
lazy to
go
walk to his
or
bed.
even remembers to go to his own bed, like in
Yeah.
his own apartment.
He said Wizard
which
of
is kinda
Oz
funny.
was nice to watch.
Yeah.
I like
well, no, he
like,
definitely seems like a textbook guy that would pass out in front of his
Right.
TV, like in his
That's
living
true.
room every night.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, I like that they differentiate him from not only the agents of the show, but, you know, other cop buddy shows that are out there. You know, there are these informant
Super tough.
FBI
Yeah.
shows. You know, White Collar is very similar in terms of the format, and it's much different than that because he is. I mean, off NCT, he's like not even a person that would even be
Just writes
accepted
on
as
his
an
own.
applicant.
Yeah, but we see him on his date with Shauna that he's a genuine person and likable. That's what I found interesting about this episode. They stopped painting Brian as such a loser when he's off NCT, but as someone who's capable of love and capable of being an open and honest person with people from his past. Because ultimately, we have learned through this episode that he used to have a spark, and somewhere along the way, it left him. And that can happen as you fail in a band and you know that dream for him went away. So now he's finding a new life, and it seems to permeate not only when he's on NCT but when he's off it too. And that's something Shauna noticed and something new that we learned this week.
Yeah, and I think at the first date he's still kind of like, well, he wrote on his arm, and I think the first date he's trying to impress her, which I'm not impressed. If you're trying to impress me, I'm not impressed. So.
And that's a great point. That is true. You know, when you're
Yeah.
trying to
like if
put
you're
it all out
confident and you're
there.
making fun of me, this is
Right.
weird. But not really. I like sarcastic men.
No,
You know?
I've heard that
Yeah.
from girl friends of mine too. They say, "Don't put me on a pedestal. Like, make fun of me, tease me, you know, that whole kind of thing." And
Yeah.
you know,
I don't know.
for a very first date. Now, in this
Yeah.
in this episode, we have
Some history,
Some
yeah.
history. So he's he did his homework on her, which is great. It's nice to know a little bit extra about the girl that you're going out with,
Right.
And he put the effort in, and I think that
Yeah,
that's
he
what went a long way.
definitely
for her.
put the effort in. I mean, basically took a
yeah.
day off work to figure out how to save her apartment
Yeah.
and X-ray the building.
Right.
I don't know how you would. That's a lot to pull off in an afternoon, but hey, he's on NCT.
That's right.
You were gonna say something?
Oh, I was just thinking, it's weird that I don't know. It's sad to me that he felt like he had to try to impress her without just.
Well, she was the girl that
Yeah.
got away, the
Yeah.
Great White Buffalo.
That's
as they
true.
say.
I mean, don't you get a little
Yeah.
bit nervous or a little insecure
yeah.
before a date? I mean, like, oh, okay, I gotta know extra about her. So I
cool.
sympathize with him. That
Okay,
was a
that's
little
cool.
bit like,
Yeah.
nerves
You're
just
just, like,
before
nervous.
going out.
You're like
And then
nervous.
when he dropped it all and he confessed it and he said, "I'm just nervous about all this." Then
Right.
we saw the real him.
But
Then-
he was lying.
No, he wasn't. No.
Yes.
What?
No.
Yeah, because she goes, "What's up with you?" She was like, "Why aren't you the same as this morning?" And he's like, "I'm just nervous." No, it's because you aren't on NCT.
Oh, I disagree. I think
You
that
do?
in that
No,
moment
I
it
don't
was
think so.
honesty with him. I think because you see
I
his
could see
body
it.
change. He like gets back and goes, "I'm nervous for this," and he was nervous because he went through all that effort to try and find things that she had researched for her work. He
Yeah.
was trying as hard as he could to get NZT so that he could be this, superhuman while he's with her, and then ultimately he's walking into the date without it, and I'm sure he must have been a little bit. I mean, his arm was all sweaty when he pulled the
He's
the
nervous,
shirt
but
back.
that's not why he was different than that morning.
we're going to disagree on this one.
Okay. I'll disagree. That's fine.
But that's good that we are, because that
Yeah.
means we care enough about the show to have an opinion about it. So
This is I don't know if I should say, but this is the first time that's actually happened to
What,
where it gives you like the element of the show. It's interesting that element was there to be discussed.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did.
Because
Yes,
in
the
the
water
past,
cooler
I
talk.
haven't been, that interested in or empathizing with the people, I guess.
with
And as much as I
with
did
the
this
characters.
episode. Right.
Yeah, no, I mean,
And-
that may be another reason why they did try to go into Brian's past a little bit, just to show him as, like his human connections, like how deep they were.
Yeah.
That definitely added a layer to him that wasn't just, oh, it's a hot girl on the subway,
Right.
that I can pick up now because I'm super smooth and charming and smart.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was.
And he's
now
like,
that I
he
think
really
about it,
wants it,
Yeah.
He really wanted to.
And I
And he
think
wants a family.
he
He's
was
not
nervous
like-
not just because it was, her, but because he was holding a secret. Like, he had to figure that out. He was like, should I tell her now?
Right.
Like, how do I... That whole thing is like, whenever you start a relationship on, the pretense of a part of my life cannot, like, be connected to you, like, that is never good.
Yeah, and I really wish we could have seen the moment where he tells her that I can't be with you anymore. We missed.
I know.
I know,
missed the
yeah, that
breakup
was
scene.
It would have been
was-
so juicy.
There was no
Good
breakup
God.
scene, and we need to see that. We need
Yeah.
to see them break up and to see if he tells her why or not. I really wanted to
No,
see
true.
that.
I mean, yeah, it definitely would have been
I
like
don't know.
sort of a
It's-
cliche scene of them,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh, well, it's not me, it's you, like having to break up. At the same time, I feel like I would have rather traded to see that and just get some emotional acting performances rather than that wild goose chase with the Jeffrey Fox's child with his eyes.
interesting.
Like, if we could have made that like 10-minute of the episode trade, I would have taken it.
I agree, but because when they were on the date and he relaxes as he says, I'm nervous, which I consider an honest moment, and the way they wrote it was honest, I feel like they could have come up with a breakup scene that was real and that was interesting and that wasn't just, I have to break up with you. Why? Oh, because, I can't tell you. Brian, and then he leaves. I mean,
No, that's
it's
good.
not going to be
That's a good-
something like that. It's going to be...
That's a good point. I wish that they showed us like a smart way he NZT'd his way out of it. Like, obviously
know.
hurting
It's
her,
too
but
much.
off of the NZT, though, to
Okay.
show that he's growing.
yeah.
Because I think in that specific situation, I wanted to see him break up. I wanted to see the hurt, not just when he's back at the apartment and he's collapsed on his couch, but the moment he has to look her in the eye and tell her that he can't be with her. We missed that.
I know. It would have been awesome to see. I mean, that
been
is such
dramatic.
a raw moment. It's like, how do you
Exactly.
get there?
Exactly.
I would have been great TV.
Yes.
CBS. God, always taking shortcuts. These big networks.
No. It's not. I don't mean it to criticize the show or the writers. I just, as a fan, I get into the show and there's just something that I wanted to see. That's what it comes down to for me. What do you think?
Thank you. Yeah, I actually disagree again.
Okay.
And I don't think it. Dude, I knew that this is gonna be over. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's
You
not
mean
gonna
the
see her
relationship
anymore.
was not going to
Yeah.
last?
How did you
Okay.
know?
I mean, after the guy came, not before. I didn't know.
So
I see.
when
Okay.
Mr. Sand
When
shows
Sand
up,
shows
you're like,
up.
okay,
Yeah,
boom.
I was like, oh, well, that's sexy.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, they play a lot
It's just
with...
another character that's going away. I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we definitely
other
like
times.
get and throw away characters like it's our job in the show, but no, I
saying.
feel like they could have easily done a flashback. They do that all the time. They
Yeah.
change settings and cut back and forth.
But this is why they have it like this, because he's on the couch. I mean, we don't need the breakup scene, okay? He's on the couch. It's over, dude. And this is the first time he's realizing, oh my gosh, like my life is completely not in my hands. He didn't
Right.
think.
Well, no,
I don't think that Eddie. He thought Eddie Moore had it out for him, or didn't know what he was doing. But I think that he does now. I think that he knows that something's really weird. But guess what?
What?
Rebecca's there.
For that beer o'clock moment. True. No, I'm not saying that like we don't know what's happening or that like the story suffered. Because we definitely know what happens. And again, it would have been like a textbook like protecting you but not telling you why. It's breakup scene.
I mean, it made it easier.
But I'm just saying that like, and I think Frank, you were saying this too. Was I would have appreciated just watching that emotional moment because it was it would be so intense and so raw, and they could do the little twists that they do with the show in that moment rather than doing the textbook. Let's spend 15 minutes on this loose end.
Yeah, and there's no reason that it necessarily has to be a negative breakup scene.
Right.
Who's to say that it's going to be so awful between them, or that she's going to be so devastated by it? They had just rekindled, so there's so many. And what I would have liked, and why I wanted to see this, because I think it would have added a emotional depth to Brian that would show that he gets hurt, that he hurts for wanting someone to be with him and to share this experience, because he's very alone in this whole scenario.
Well, no, I mean that's sort of
you got that from you. I know. You guys think that you would have felt that more with the scene than just. You didn't get it as much. You don't think when he was. Well, no,
we get where he is now, seeing like how he was sulking by his couch, and Rebecca came and was like, "Okay, let's do the beer talk."
Yes.
Yeah.
We get it. I mean, I definitely get where he is. We got to the same finish line, but I would have loved to see like a little bit more of that like intense struggle at the end.
You wanted to like ride the roller coaster to get there instead of just
just like appearing at the end.
Got it.
Okay. So I mean, just a minor criticism.
Like,
something, as you said, as a fan, I would have appreciated.
Yes.
But I mean, fast forwarding to where we know we are now, it was good to see that there are consequences to the drugs. Like he does become this super smart person, this super Brian, if you will, but he has to sacrifice things. He has to sacrifice
a lot of things.
Telling people the truth or like having people close to him, and we'll see how far that goes. Big deal. If he's pushed to do like shadier and more illegal things, then that's going to really affect his own morals, which we know are pretty strong. His relationship with his family and friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main things that we need to see going forward. Let's get the Eddie Mora stuff picking up.
Right.
That was intense,
Yeah, and
intense.
Just intense. Circle it. Great note.
It elevates the show to a higher level when you have greater forces at work.
True.
Eddie Mora is he's running for Senate, or we haven't found out if he's going to run for Senate again.
Well, I think he is president. In the Senate
That's
now.
Right.
He debatable on whether he's going for the big job
because he gets too much time off. That was one
reason. That's right.
He's enjoying the lax hours of the Senate.
Yeah.
I think the meat of the show, or definitely the most interesting stuff, is obviously anything that involves Bradley Cooper's character, and that sort of like mega intense stuff. I mean, the procedural stuff is fine, but it is sort of, even though they do raise the stakes to how important it is definitely small potatoes in the light of how big like Eddie Moore's whole scheme is.
I like Randy Moore, the NYPD
guy. I mean, the NYPD, I didn't mind any of that. I mean, I really liked how we were saying, like, he was sizing everybody up and was like, you have bite marks, you have a limp. We went through that. Another sort of wild goose chase with the sniper, but it wasn't as far off as the first one. Like Jeffrey Vox was just like, okay, like why did we find this intern with a baby?
Right.
But I mean, we found the sniper. Like that was cool because he was like the height. We got to see Brian sort of construct this model out of these Post-its, which I thought was another clever way that they put more of Brian's character into the smarts. Like he did create this whole thing, but he did it sort of as like a genius kid would.
Exactly.
He could have built it out of Legos or something.
I like when he builds stuff. He built the bomb models last episode, and he built the Post-it note model this episode. They are finding creative ways for us to for them to illustrate to us what's happening in a crime scene, because these procedural episodes have a lot of twists and turns and a lot of names and scenes and people involved. So having those cool visual elements helps us to understand what's going on.
Absolutely. And another thing I think really helps the show along in terms of how procedural it gets is the comedy. They never forget to make fun of themselves. You know, they always have a recreation scene with a twist. You know, it's Brian imagining the shakedown of this like biathlete Sabra, and it's like gives it like the first off, I mean, just to introduce him, that like biopack is like this machete like esque like Mexican video where they throw him into like a pool filled with piranhas. In the backyard.
They got me at one time. I didn't know it was a dream sequence.
Right.
Because Rebecca walks up and what line did she say?
She says, "You run like a rabbit, but you're going to die like a snake."
And I was just like, shook my head. I was like, that is so corny. And then they pop it out and it's not her. I was like, oh.
It was so funny because I'm like sitting like right here and Frank's right here and he's just like...
I was like, you got to be kidding me. That is so corny. And then, of course, it's Brian's mind. It was perfect. They really got me good.
That exactly. It's those moments that it's like, okay, it's not just the run-of-the-mill procedural thing. Like, they do know what they are, know what they're trying to do, which gives me a lot more faith in the show as a whole.
I like when he's like, and guess what? 6'5". He's 6'5".
Yeah, just
the assassin is 6'5".
Nailed it.
Can you run that through your tall assassin files?
Well,
they're like, we don't have any of those.
Jake McDorman, who plays Brian, has some really good comedy chops. I was actually watching American Sniper over the weekend, and
he's actually in that.
He's in that movie. He has scenes with Bradley Cooper. He plays Biggie or something like that. I can't remember his exact name. But
I believe there's an article that said that that's where they like met and obviously worked together. Right. But for this show, that was sort of one of the leading.
Right.
Biggles was his name in the movie, and he has a great scene with Bradley Cooper. They're on a rooftop and they're hunting the sniper, and Bigsy gets shot, and Bradley Cooper's over him, and they're like. He's so worried about his friend is near death, and they have this really funny hospital scene between the two where they're giving each other smack talk, even though Biggles is on the hospital bed, and Bradley Cooper's character, of course, is standing above him, and they're having a really funny interaction. So, did you say you read an article? Is that how they met and how this came about?
Right. Yeah, I'll try to pull it up for the next after show. But I believe that's where Bradley met.
So anyway, that was my point in saying I watched him in that movie. I said, wow, this guy's really good. He's funny. He's really sarcastic in the movie and has a great sense of humor and presence on screen. So that is carrying over here into the show too. It's a lot to carry your own show, and he's the leading guy.
Absolutely.
And, we have to care about him, and we have to like him in order for people to come back. And,
exactly.
Last week the ratings grew. It was the first series to grow on its first episode. So from episode 1, episode 2, the Limitless viewership came higher.
Very good. Well, we love hearing that. Yeah. And to your point, I think it is really hard not only to be the star of your own TV show when you're not a well-known actor, but also filling the shoes of a Academy Award nominee like Bradley Cooper is incredibly famous.
Yes.
And to replace his character, I mean, obviously his character still exists, but to be the new star in that universe is, huge shoes to fill.
And I think Jake is now becoming the character more. He's not trying to be Bradley Cooper's version of this same character. I felt that he was copying, in a way, some of the essence that Bradley Cooper had in the original film, in the pilot episode, but now he's progressing enough with the character where he's making it his own. He has those funny moments that you're talking about. He's like, 6'5", and he's clapping for himself, and he's like, and he walked through the middle of the room at the end of the last episode. It's like, call me, and just walks out. We're seeing the funny side of him, which wasn't present in the movie, which is what I like because it's original to the show and to the character.
Exactly. And another thing that makes his character sort of more pivotal in this show is that he invests in what he's doing. He's not really out for himself at all. Like he barely even entertained a girlfriend for like 5 minutes.
That's a great point.
You know, he really dives into his work. We saw him really care. He was like, yeah, like, you know, do we have access to fighter jets? Like, I totally figured out this whole scheme, which is really creative. I mean, they did a nod to Miami Vice, but that's, you know, really creative thing that I didn't even think about. Like, oh, like flying underneath. Even when he said that, I was like, oh, are they like in where the bags are? Like, what? Yeah. But that's a really cool idea that, you know, might work if they were able to put the resources into place to pull that off.
I liked how they had to use the weather equipment to find the thermal.
Right.
The heat track.
Yeah, the heat track.
Or the extra exhaust.
Yeah, exactly. Extra exhaust, yeah.
But I love what you just said, JB, about Brian having a more selfless quality to him than our, you know, Eddie Mora does in both the movie
Which we're
and
finding
in the
out.
TV
This is
show.
kind of crazy.
That is so true. Brian cares more about his family and other people than himself. I think that's one of his most redeeming qualities. And which is why I think is a lot of the reason why we keep tuning in again, because, you know, we want to know who Brian's going to help this week.
Definitely.
You know what? I just thought of this. Okay.
It should be good.
We need to have like our own. Bring back like the mariachi music for whenever you have a thought.
I know, and you guys just need to make something up like ding to ding to ding.
We'll work on that. And get back to you.
Okay. So,
Okay.
this is
There we go.
perfect.
Yeah.
And now for Emily's thoughts.
Deep
Yes,
thoughts.
Deep thoughts. So, when you're around the one that got away, don't you think that you would liven up naturally because you're like you when you're with them, you know? And it's just right. So, it's just sad to me that he wanted to take the NCT and like thought that he needed to. That's so sad.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent,
yeah.
it's now his job to take it every day.
Right, that's true. It is.
Having said that, and knowing that he's got a 12-hour limit, I'm really wondering if there are days where he just pockets the pill and like saves it for some other time.
He can't.
I mean, why not? He gives him one a day. So if there was a day at work where he knew he was just going to be in the file room, there's not a lot of murders.
They know if he'd
be like, oh, yep, totally.
I mean,
put it on his tongue. I mean, you can.
The FBI knows, don't they?
It's not like they open his mouth and say, did you swall that?
I think they gotta watch him take it, right?
Right, but I mean, you can
check it in the bathroom.
You can easily
I get what you
put it
mean.
in your mouth and like put it under your tongue, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
mean,
this
save
is
like half
what
of it.
you would do, probably.
Well, I mean, if it was so like restricted like that, and if you knew, I mean, again, we've only seen him really explore the NZT and like get into positive trouble. I don't even know it's even a thing.
It was the bodyguard's fault anyway, because he was the one who said, "What are you going to be like when you're not on NZT? Because it wears off in 12 hours."
He planted a seed of doubt.
He definitely did.
Inside of Brian's brain, but I can't believe you've never met a guy who was nervous before a date. I mean, that's what your point is. Like, I can't believe he wanted to take the NZT. He wanted to be amazing on the date.
Well, I feel like, and this is no offense to you, but
I'm excited.
Personally, I feel like for anyone to proceed all the way to date stage with you, nervousness is out the window. That's already been covered like to death. Like they are so firmly like with what's going on.
You gotta be on board,
dude. Totally. Actually, no. It just like happens all the time. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just comfortable that I make anyone feel not uncomfortable. Like the guy I met today who just offered me pizza, and then this guy on the street
sounds like a great guy.
Yeah, and
pizza dude. Yeah, all right.
Guy on the street gave me a banana. I didn't even know him. I just was parking.
Which brings me to my next point. You may want to pump the brakes on accepting food from strangers on the street.
Yes. Okay, thank
just
you.
a thought. I mean, take it or leave it. 2 cents.
2 cents.
You could end up like Marco Ramos, dead in a freezer, and that's a bad way to go.
Dead in a freezer, yeah. And obviously he was a part of the task force, illegal, sort of information sharing that was going on between the two. But I wanted to see the fighter jets intercept the plane underneath the jumbo jet.
That would have been.
They cut quickly to the guys already being caught at the end. I mean, it's probably a TV episode, and it's not in the budget to do these special effects. It's
a shame though,
to do an Air Force One and 5 fighter jets show up, and now they're underneath it. Unfortunately,
Again, we got the story elements without actually seeing the full race there, but it would have been
I was
cool.
awesome because I was just watching you, and I'm like, what is he writing? And it's like, I want to see the fighter jets.
I wanted to see it. I wanted an executive decision or Air Force One moment where the fighters come up behind it and intercept. How did they get them to land? Where did they land? I want to know all these things. So, but I mean, I get it. We get it. They got them on the ground, and they're in jail now.
Which is intense.
Success. Another one in the books. Another case solved for Brian. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. I'd love to talk about predictions that you guys might have.
Let's do it.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV.
It's too cool. It's perfect for Halloween too.
It is.
It really is.
It's getting to the season.
That's right. Okay, so my prediction that Brian and Rebecca will hook up still stands. I will reiterate that prediction every time we have an episode here because she gave him a really nice compliment, a really, really sweet one. So, okay, I will say that Brian is going to... His first assignment for Eddie Mora is going to be passing inside information from the FBI to him, and it's going to involve the FBI agent Naz, the head lady there. So she's, I believe he's going to pass information.
Yeah, no, she definitely something about her, just something about her face. It's just
Naz.
I mean, great acting.
Sans,
But,
which is why confusing.
Yeah, no, she's
playing it mischievously. Let's say that.
San. That's weird because San's name is Naz spelled backwards.
You mean Mr. Sands?
Sans, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's an extra S, but
not really.
Definitely. Actually, 100%. There's an extra S.
Put it in. That's sweet though. Kind of cool.
Close though. I mean,
but interesting.
Good observation. Maybe there's a connection there.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing is she doesn't seem to be pro Eddie Mora. Maybe she's throwing us all off the trail, but
oh no, I don't think she's pro Eddie Mora at all. I think Eddie Mora has something against Naz. Or just the FBI in general.
That's what I just said.
Right.
You gotta come up with something different than what I just said.
I just worded it better.
Yeah, you did word it better. I'll give
fair
you
enough.
Okay.
You did have his comment to go off of.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna give Frank his prediction.
Thank you very much, Jake.
My own prediction is I'm gonna go bold here. I think they're gonna bring Shauna back. Might not be next episode, but somewhere down the line. I just feel like it was a little too soon for him to be like, I can't have anybody in my life, because we don't know what Eddie Mora is going to do or Mr. Sand's going to tell him to do. Like, what if it's not even illegal at all?
That's a great point, too. And we've seen so many superhero stories where the superhero hangs on to the girlfriend and ultimately it negatively affects her. I'm thinking of the Batman movies and, the Dark Knight movies with Rachel Dawes. Bad things happen to them. So you're right. It was a little bit too early when Brian doesn't know just yet what it is that's going to be expected of him. Mr. Sands is a little bit intimidating as a character, but is he enough to completely drop the girl that you've been trying to win back? I don't know. So I think you make a good prediction there. I think we'll see her again too. And plus she's really cute. I hope we'll see her again.
I think
you could always use more cute, attractive females.
That's right.
But yeah, I know. I realized why he did it. I just felt like it's a little soon. Let's figure out what. Let's put the cards on the table.
Let's bring her on back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
it
it might get too intense.
He only had the beer talk with Rebecca at the very end, so I feel like that's going to produce some results.
They say that.
It's good chat.
Get the music. They say that the strongest type of bonding is negative bonding, which is exactly what that was.
By negative bonding, you mean like consoling each other about a negative event that happened?
Yes.
Okay.
That in moments
Because I was just like hate mashing each other is probably not that
in moments
strengthening.
of desperation and physical
Grief?
Yes.
Totally.
That is the strongest bonding.
The more you know. You heard it here, everybody.
Emily Wisdom.
That's right. You just
All right. Well, yeah, I think that's going to do it.
And the bodyguard is totally going to be like Brian's buddy.
Mike?
Yeah.
But which isn't even his name.
No.
I wonder if we'll ever find out, if we ever go deeper into Mike.
We will.
We'll have to keep watching.
He's going to help him. I think Brian's going to help Mike out to not be a bodyguard.
Totally. Well, we'll have to find out next week. Till then, where can the fans follow you guys?
I am on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M. Thanks for listening, guys.
On Twitter at Emily Kraudel.
And I'm on Twitter at JB_Zimmerman. Be sure to hashtag ABTV Limitless and rate and review the show on YouTube and iTunes. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See you next week.
See you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.